Hey everybody, hope you're having a great day. I am back once again to do Castle Rock, to review an episode of Castle Rock, Hulu's original show that's based on the Stephen King town and many of his novels. I'm realizing right now I am so just invested in so many different Stephen King things happening right now. Right now I'm reading Stephen King's book 11/22/63. I'm watching, of course, Castle Rock, and I'm keeping up with Mr. Mercedes Season 2, which is, of course, an adaptation to his Mr. Mercedes trilogy. So many Stephen King things going on right now, which is great if you're a Stephen King fan, obviously. This was episode 8, so after this, only got 2 more episodes. Real quick, before I get into the actual review, if you just want my overview of the show so far, some things I really like, some things I really hate. I am disappointed. I thought it was going to be a lot better, to be honest. But I think with every episode, I feel like maybe not the first like 2 or 3, but it seems like the first half is really not slow, but it just feels like nothing's really happening. And then the second half for each episode, it gets really crazy, and they always have a really great ending. I will give them that. That's always a positive that I try to point out in these reviews. Always a great ending, but I don't want to be I don't want to think of it as one of those shows that has just a great ending, so everyone just assumes the entire episode is great, when a lot of times that's not the case. Walking Dead does it so much. They always have a good ending, so everyone just says, oh, the whole episode is great, when that wasn't the case at all. But this episode, it's episode 8, it's called Past Perfect, and we're going to get right into it. Second half, like I said, it really picks up, but we start off, I got my notes ready to go, we start off with the person that bought or was thinking about buying the former warden's house, where he was going to buy it with his wife, were brought back to him. And I was like, that's kind of weird. I knew I remembered him from something, but it was a few episodes ago we saw that. So I was like, oh, what are they doing here? Like, why does this character matter? But basically, he's like an academic professor of some sort. He's with 2 other colleagues, and I believe they're kind of interviewing another person. And they're talking about, like, if you can remember past memories or something like that. It was some, like, real, like, academic thing. So basically, it ends with him basically saying to the guy that they're interviewing, the interviewee, yeah, you slept with my wife. And he takes his big old book and smashes it over his face and starts murdering him, starts brutally killing him, basically. So that was apparently why him and his wife left left whatever town they were in to come to Castle Rock. There was 2 other people with him when he was murdering the dude, so I'm like, how did he get out of that? I don't really understand that, but okay. Maybe I missed something. Maybe it was supposed to be like a dream thing or something, but basically, his wife, he of course does not forgive his wife. She wants it just him to let it go, just pretend it never happened, pretend she never had an affair, and he can't really do that. But they end up buying the warden's house, and they find the key to the basement, and we see a bunch of artwork of the kid, the prisoner that the warden kept in that cage. Just many different arts, portraits and such of him. So that's what they find in it. So basically, they're opening up the warden's house as a bed and breakfast, but it has a little theme to it. It has a classic Castle Rock theme to it. It's supposed to be a murder, like true crime theme to it, where they're gonna have all these mannequins set up where real murders happen, and they're gonna be like recreating them and stuff with mannequins. So they have 2 guests arrive, and basically they have a mannequin with an axe in his head because it's a real person in that town in like 1929, I think he was murdered. So basically they're trying to like tell the guests, this is going to be this great theme, and the guests are not even here for this. They're just here to have an affair. They're basically getting up in this bed and breakfast just so they can get it on. And oh boy, do they get it on. They get it on, and it's super loud. Gordon, the man that bought the house with his wife, there's in their bed. The wife is perfectly sleeping, which I don't know how she can sleep with all that racket going on of them getting it on. But Gordon is just wide awake, and the wife finally wakes up, and she finds that Gordon's no longer there. She hears a loud thump, and she goes to the guest room, and she finds Gordon brutally murdered both of them. There's blood everywhere. They're naked. He said he put a stop to that shimmy shammy going on in the guest bedroom. So yeah, he murdered both of them, and I'll get to their story a little later, but Molly ends up saving Henry. The last time we saw Henry was the 6th episode, so it wasn't even the last episode. The 6th episode where he was stuck in that RV and he was hearing the sounds and he was losing his mind and seeing all these flash images of his childhood and such. Molly ends up rescuing him because she, of course, because of her powers or whatever, she feels his pain. She sees what he sees. So she ends up finding the RV and saving him. And Henry asks where the two other guys went, and she says she doesn't know. But we see Odin. The viewers are able to see Odin outside the RV laying on the ground with a screwdriver deep in his eye. So he was murdered. I don't know if that means Molly did it, or maybe the kid did it, maybe somebody else did it. I don't know. But Odin, the guy that was deaf, that tried to show Henry the sound, was murdered. So next, Henry ends up going home. And the kid, we see the kid with him, and Henry has no idea why the kid's even there. I don't even think he knew about Juniper Hill, about him breaking out of the mental institution. But basically, he tells his son Wendell to go upstairs. Ruth is sleeping upstairs as well. And the kid brings Henry to the shed outside and shows that Alan is murdered. And he tells him that Ruth did it, but they need to hide the body so they can protect Ruth. And he tells Henry that I've waited 27 years for you. That is a clear Stephen King reference, 27 years, to this old guy, Pennywise. And the kid is played by Bill Skarsgård, who is Pennywise in the new movie. Just hearing him say, I waited 27 years for this, I was like, please be Pennywise. I just want them, I know they're teasing it, and I know he's not, he's not going to be Pennywise, but I would just love at the end if he, put on some clown shoes or something. Basically, he says, I broke you out of the basement. I saved you when you were locked up in the basement. I didn't ask for this. So the kid, it seems like he's trying to be a good guy, and him breaking out Henry when he was a kid, when he was locked up in that basement, we don't know what was going on, but when he went missing or whatever. So it's revealed that the kid saved him. The kid seems like a good guy, but anytime he goes somewhere, people die. People are brutally murdered, and he seems like he has some evil stuff to him. And when he was following Ruth and trying to draw her a bath, that seemed like he was pretty evil. But I don't know. It's just so crazy what's going on in the show. So Wendell, Henry's son, ends up seeing them in the shed, so he calls the cops. The police arrive, and the kid makes a break for it. He's able to escape, and the police think the kid did it. They don't think Ruth, with her dementia, shot Alan, even though that's what happened. But Ruth still thinks she shot the kid. She thinks Alan's perfectly fine. She has no idea what's going on, so it's rough what's going on with Ruth. Next, Jackie ends up visiting the warden's house because she sees that they're opening up this bed and breakfast. She has a taxi cab so they can work out business-wise. She can tell her taxi people that, take a ride. She can tell them about the bed and breakfast. The bed and breakfast people can shoot the customers her way to get a taxi ride. All good. But before she arrives, Gordon's basically sawing off all the body parts of the people that he murdered. He's putting them in trash bags. We think his wife's gonna, obviously freak out and tell the police about it. But no, she's totally on board with it. She says, let's just pretend it never happened. Just like the affair. So she's trying to get her husband to forgive her for having an affair because she's forgiving him for murdering two people. This town is so messed up. So many things are happening right now. So many bad people. But Jackie ends up coming in the house. Seeing what they're going for, the whole murder mystery bed and breakfast, and she's down with the idea. She's like, that's awesome. They shush her out of the house. They shoo her away pretty much, and she finds a bloody bracelet in the front yard, and she kind of realizes, okay, they're up to some really bad stuff. She ends up leaving, but she'll end up returning. We'll get to that a little later. So Wendell, Henry is like, I don't even know why I brought you here. So he puts him on a bus to go back to Boston. He's basically, says, I'll come up when everything's done here. I'll stay with you for a few weeks. And Wendell's like, you need to come with me now. But Henry says, no, he can't do that. So he ends up leaving. Wendell's on the bus, just sitting on the bus, ready for it to take off. And a dead crow slams right into the windshield. And Wendell hears the sound, that piercing sound that Henry has. So it appears that Wendell has inherited that sound that Henry is always hearing. So that is the first part of the review. Like I said, it was kind of slow. The first half of the episode is always kind of slow, but the second half really, really picks up. So in the second half of this review, I'm going to be talking about all the crazy, crazy stuff that's happening. I hope you're enjoying the review so far, and just thank you so much for listening, and we're going to get right into things as I come back for part 2 of the review. Alright, so Henry and Molly kind of know something is terribly wrong with the kid. They needed to figure out what is in that basement of the warden's house. Molly was never able to figure it out because the warden's wife couldn't remember where the key was. So Henry is going to take matters into his own into his own hands, and he goes to the warden's house. He ends up knocking on the door. Nobody seems home, so he ends up breaking into it. Basically, he breaks through the basement, finds really nothing. So he heads upstairs. Henry, what are you doing? This is a terrible idea. But he ends up going upstairs and he finds this big room with what we know was in the basement of the warden's house. He finds this big room with the art pieces of the kid all around. Just all these art portraits all around with the kid's face on it. He ends up taking off the frame and such for the pictures and seeing when the warden drew them, because he always signed it and dated it at the bottom, as we all do when we're, an artist. So the warden, puts the year for everyone, and every different picture is a different year. It's 2011, 2005, 1997, 1991, all these different years, but the kid looks the exact same. So Henry finally sees, okay, the kid is never ages, apparently, in the warden's eyes and in Henry's eyes, because he's seen the kid before, obviously. So he sees that he's never aged. And he sees from the 1991 picture that the kid is wearing the same shirt that Henry was wearing when in his missing child photographs. In those posters of the missing child of Henry Deaver, he's wearing the same shirt that he was. So that's weird. I didn't really know what to take from this. It's so weird because there's so many theories that the kid is Henry's dad, but now it looks like he's Henry. He could be a form of Henry or something. I don't really know what's going on, but Gordon ends up coming up and saying, what are you doing? So Henry kind of tries to get out of there. He says, I need to leave. I'm a lawyer. I represent the kid. I'm leaving. And Gordon's like, yeah, you probably should. So as he starts backing out of the room, his back's turned. Gordon's wife comes up with a knife and stabs him right in the back. But it doesn't really, impale him, so he's not too badly hurt, I don't believe. And then a freaking brawl happens. It's a full-on just struggle, and it's brutal. So basically, he kind of does a 2-on-1, Henry versus Gordon and his wife. They're taking him from behind. They're trying to attack him with the knife. He's able to, hit the knife away, so the wife stabs herself in the throat. She ends up falling backwards and dying because that stabbed her right in the jugular. He fights off the husband, and he tries to run out of there, get in his car. The husband ends up pulling him out of the car and trying to stab him again. He's in a bloody rage trying to stab Henry. It looks like he's about to, and who comes up with a freaking axe to the back of the head? It is none other than Jackie Torrance. Smashes Gordon in the back of the head with the same axe that was in the house for the murder mystery theme party. So basically, she pulls a little thing from her uncle, who is Jack Torrance, of course, from the movie The Shining. He went crazy with an axe. She just murdered the Gordon with an axe. I like that. I like that little thing. Taking something from her uncle. She inherited his craziness with an axe. So a pretty brutal scene. The fight, it seemed kind of not badly choreographed, but I guess more realistic and gritty, and everyone's fumbling with stuff, and they're not full on killers, So the fight seemed kind of weird, choreographed kind of weird, but I just feel like it was probably just to show they're not trained killers. It was a gritty, fight. So that was just my little note from it. Next, Molly ends up finding the kid at her house. He's just sitting in the doorway. We'll get to that a little later. Henry gets a call from the police. They say Ruth came to the police department to ask if Alan was alive or dead or something, and now she's missing. They have no idea where he was. So the big question, when Henry left to go to the warden's house, and he had put Wendell on a bus to go to Boston. Wendell ends up getting off the bus and walking his way back to Castle Rock. But anyway, what did Henry, Henry had no one with Ruth. Why would he leave her at her home when she just went through this crazy thing? Alan's dead on in the floor shed, in the shed's floor. Why would he leave Ruth alone? I really don't understand that. Did I miss something? Did he put her with the police department or something? But I didn't understand that. Why would he leave her after she went through all that? I don't know. But final scene, the kid ends up telling Molly that he knows so much about her, that he doesn't think Henry is ready yet, so he needs her help. And she's like, I don't know anything about you. And he's like, yes, you do. And he starts listing off all this stuff that she did as a child in her childhood home, with her parents and such, and how she stayed up late watching this certain show. And he ends up going upstairs, and she kind of is drawn to him, so she follows him upstairs, and they look out the window, and he says, this is where I saw, in the forest, all this stuff And he ends up saying, "This is where," the final line, he says, "This is where you died." So earlier in the episode, she saw like these flashbacks of her as a child, as Henry as a child. So we thought, oh, this is her like powers where she's feeling Henry stuff. But then we see quick shots of her as an adult, as how she is right now, with blood on her face, down on the floor, like looked to be dead in the forest. So the kid just revealed, "This is where you die." So he's telling her future, I guess, where she's going to be murdered. Um, it feels like the music went so well with the final few scenes of this episode, which I thought really added to the suspense. It feels like these last two episodes are going to be really, really insane. I hope it feels insane the entire episode. I hope it feels suspenseful the entire episode. I just feel like each episode, the first half is kind of like, who really cares? And then the second half, they really get into stuff. We'll see where we go. I don't really know what's going on with the kid. I don't know who he is. I just want him to be Pennywise so bad. But it feels like he's trying to be a good guy at times, but he's just misunderstood. I don't know. But this was a better episode. Again, not loving the show. I'm liking it. But something I'm really not a fan of. I'm glad to see Jackie doing something much more. Because I think the last episode, she was in it for maybe 5 seconds. So her to actually have a scene, do some murdering, let's go. I'm happy about that. So I'm glad Jackie's doing something. And I want to see more with the kid and Ruth. I think they've been killing it so far. So thanks so much for watching. Let me know what you thought of this episode of Castle Rock, episode 8, Past Perfect. We got 2 episodes left, and I think it's gonna be pretty crazy. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts of the whole show and this episode all down below in the comment section. And thank you again, and as always, have a great day.